okay? But if you don't have a bench, or you don't have a bench, okay, there's going to be a necessity for you to bring yourself down onto, preferably, a yoga mat and I say a hard floor, but you really don't want to be doing it in sort of things like thick carpets or thick rugs, because much the same as what I suggested to you, they become a support for people's kind of hollows. So in some cases, your lumbar spine, yeah, the padding sits up into your lumbar spine. You don't know, and they don't know whether they're compensating. And we're going to be using the spine and the hip positioning to have an understanding of whether they're compensating or not, okay? The motions are kind of fairly repetitive. So for those, well, for all of you that have kind of experienced the shoulder joint motion, they're now going to be relatively, well, they're going to be very similar. Let's put it that way, okay? Who's that handsome young man? So we're going to have you laying down supine to begin with. Can I have you flipping round if that's okay? So your head is here. That will support you, by the way. And your leg says they work. Perfect. Can I steal that goniometer, please? That's okay. Or that one, that would be perfect. Thank you. See what I mean about losing my goniometer? So, first thing we're going to do, okay, let's follow this, yes, because that keeps the order of the joints. Hip flexion. Let me throw it out there before I begin hip flexion. What would be the restrictive structures, and let's become a little bit more explicit with the question, what would be the restrictive muscles that would prevent Sandra's hip from going into flexion? So what would be the muscles that would stop her going into hip flexion? The hip extensors. Good. What are they? Perfect. Perfect. Good. Excellent. The reason I highlight that is because it's the opposition structure that's going to prevent ranges of movement. Does that make sense? It's not going to be the structure of which is on the same side. So the hip flexors aren't going to restrict hip flexion. It will be the hip extensors. All right? So, this, and the reason I suggest that, is because it becomes a bit of a hamstring stretch. Okay? So it is kind of a bit of a hamstring stretch. But it's a hamstring stretch that is strict. It's done as we've done before, slowly.
I've got tight hamstrings.
You needed to throw that in there just before I did it. Yeah.
I do. That's because you mentioned it.
Well, I'll be the judge of that. I've got my goniometer.
Very.
Okay, so it's very strict. It's no different to how we measured shoulder flexion, shoulder extension, etc. Okay, but when I look down the body needs to be relatively straight. Well, it needs to be straight. Yeah. Sometimes people will be like this. Okay, that's going to change the shape of the hips. It's going to change the shape of the lumbar spine. Okay, and basic things like that will throw your readings off. So they need to be relatively straight. Okay. They need to be in a position where there is a hollow underneath the lumbar spine. Okay. There needs to be some kind of hollow. Whether you're helping them achieve neutral spine, I'll leave that down to you. If someone is hyperlordotic, then it's easier to establish the hollow underneath the lumbar spine, but you're going to find it just a little bit harder to establish whether the lumbar spine is flattening. So if they have a big lumbar curvature, take their hand, fold their elbow, and just put their fingertips underneath their lumbar spine, because what they cannot feel in their lumbar spine, they can feel with their hand. Because as soon as I move the foot upwards, okay, her lumbar spine is going to flatten. I don't want that. That's compensation. Does that make sense, everybody? Yeah? So it gives her the ability to be able to establish whether or not she is indeed compensating. That way, it just becomes a verbal communication. Make sense? Yeah? All right. What I'm doing there, and it's not very well, I'm not doing that very well, is that I'm feeling underneath Chloe's back to see if that compensation exists. Yeah? And the reason I'm not doing it very well is because I haven't got kind of long monkey arms. So therefore, I can't really do things as well at the same time. So that becomes the workaround. Make sense? Perfect. Excellent. Okay. So from there, it's pretty straightforward. Yeah? So what I want to do is I want to make sure that the foot and the ankle remains as the wrist did, relatively relaxed. If it cannot, I might add a little bit of traction. Yeah? Same with the knee. The knee has got to remain extended. It can't bend. The same as the elbow. Shouldn't bend when we go into flexion. So much the same, the ankle and the knee are the wrist and the elbow. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to support both joints and I'm going to move her into hip flexion. And I will take her to a point whereas I'll ask Sandra whether or not her lumbar spine is flattening, because if it's flattening, that's the point that the compensation takes me to. Yeah? The point at which I measure. Okay? So I know the way the joint's moving. I'm going to establish now, and this is fairly straightforward, I'm going to establish what 0 is. So much the same as where we were with the shoulder, the hip joint is if I was to take ASIS, okay, which is the bony prominent part of the front of the hip, run a straight line down to halfway down from the padding to that ASIS. That is essentially where I put my circles. Make sense? Okay, let me do that again. You can see the bony prominence of that ASIS, right? Okay. If I work my way down to about halfway down, that's kind of where I'm going to put my circle. That point there. Yeah? Alrighty. Okay, so that's where it's going to start. Okay? My 0 point is probably, and I don't think that there's another way, even if I got Sandra to move closer to me, there's not really a necessity to have your goniometer any other way. We know that that's going to be 0, 45, 90. What would you consider to be sufficient?
90.
90. Okay? That's what I would think to be sufficient. Okay? There's every chance your hypermobile contingent are going to go beyond that. Do you measure beyond that? You're absolutely right, you do. Okay? Because as we established, if now I find 160 degrees of movement, okay, in Sandra's hip, I'm very much doubtful that she's going to have that in active. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
That's a problem for dancers because they land and dissipate and diffuse movement through their jumps. Their hamstrings are key components in landing. Yeah, does that make sense? So that's where it becomes a problem. They don't have the neural component to, as I suggested at the start of the day, be able to dissipate and reduce force through their hamstrings if they do not have that neural component. So, to that point, that's the direction that my goniometer is going to go. I'm going to take the foot, the knee, okay? So I'm just going to communicate to me as to whether or not the lumbar spine flattens, okay? You from the side can see that there is no movement in her foot or her knee.
I start feeling my
Lumbar spine flatten, and I'm going to go through it again. Tell me when. Is it now?
No. No.
Okay. So for me, it's pretty much 90 degrees, I would say. Would you say?
Yeah.
Anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd all agree on that? It's pretty much 90 degrees. Okay. All right, I'm going to bring it down. Might be 88, might be 89, but for argument's sake, let's say it's 90. Okay. I'm going to ask her to maintain that hand where it is. Okay. And I'm going to try and start in the same position of which I did last time. She's got to move it from a standstill or from a dead point, which is here. I'm going to ask her to replicate what it is that she replicated before or that she delivered before. When you're ready, nice and slowly. Watch for foot, watch for knee. She's going to communicate lumbar spine. Foot's pretty good, knee's pretty good.
No.
Okay? She's got about the same in active. That to me makes sense. Okay? Then she's going to slowly bring the knee, the foot, ankle down.
Is it quite regular that people go to the same range, passive and active, or is it just more
Healthy individuals do,
people
yeah.
who are aware of their body and
Yeah.
aware of their
Yeah.
So is it quite
This is easy.
yeah?
This is really easy.
So for our clients, say if they perhaps have less body awareness,
Yeah.
we might find often the active range of movement is a lot less than
Yeah.
passive.
Absolutely.
If you've got somebody who's quite like in tune,
Yeah.
okay.
And sometimes it actually becomes quite helpful to have someone like Sandra in the respect that she knows what the sort of feeling of her lumbar spine flattening to her hand feels
Yeah.
like, you know, and so she can help me. If there's a way that the client can help you, then that's ideal, makes
Yeah.
things a lot smoother. However, in saying that, there is a flip side, a trade-off to this, is that she's not giving us much. Yeah, she's not giving us much information.
Yeah.
So you are very likely to find that hamstrings in particular, the passive and active ranges will be offset.
Yeah.
Very, very likely. Very likely. And that's one that I would consider will be the standout point. It's often the standout point in these types of case studies. Yeah.
If you did have someone that had very tight hamstrings and
Yeah.
couldn't, like kind of maintain
Yeah,
straight leg,
yeah.
like, would the compensation be when that leg starts to bend? Or
Yeah.
would you-
Try and use the same conditions because it gives you a far more effective reading. So correct me if I'm wrong in interpreting your question, because I get this question a lot. What if it's here? Yeah,
As in, the leg's not even straight at that point,
there's already a bend. Yeah, makes sense. Still recording. There's something seriously wrong there. Yeah, something serious that the client would never think is a serious problem. But there's something seriously wrong if you can't lift your leg above without bending the knee. Okay? So, and it may have never manifested in anything, but there's not very much opportunity for us to be able to develop them if they cannot lift their foot. So we've got to do something about that. Yeah? We've got to help them increase the extensibility of their hamstrings through passive means. Yeah? Hamstring stretches, for example. Yeah? All right. Okay. Does anyone else want to do the other side for me? It's a kind of a fairly simple, straightforward one, right? This one, yeah? Jump in. Come and have a look. Come and have a go. Okay. I'll talk you through it again. I'll talk everybody else through it as well. Okay. So firstly, we know that what hip flexion is. We know which way the joint's moving. Okay. Do you want to have a little play with regards to where that goes?
Yeah.
So that's her ASIS, to see the bony prominent part there. Okay, you would just simply follow it down about halfway and it's going to go there because the moving arm is on top. The moving arm is going to be raised. I'm sort of blocking myself here, sorry. The moving arm is going to go up in the direction. Okay, so that's where it would
we're
need to
starting
go.
there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So, but you're going to passively move it. So what you've got to do is you just got to put it nearby.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah, it's got to go nearby.
Okay.
All right. So when you're going to bring that leg up,
Yeah.
you've got to support most of her leg, okay, because it's quite heavy.
Okay.
So you're going to take underneath the ankle, okay. I'm just going to move round to you, and you're just going to support the leg. You've got two hands, so you're going to support the knee and the ankle, okay. There's no pressure on the knee for anybody who sort of thinks themselves, don't grab the back of the knee. There's no pressure there. I'm not adding any pressure, I'm just supporting halfway down the leg. All right? So if you want to go just above the knee or just below the knee, if that makes you feel comfortable, that too is fine. All right? Okay, good to go. And then Sandra's going to help you out. She's going to fold at that elbow, pop her hand underneath her lumbar spine. If your hand is underneath the lumbar spine and you're doing that as a result, that's not good. Okay, so we need to be in a position where she's still got relative neutral spine and her hands there as that measure. Good to go. All right, we're establishing when we take the leg, that's it. It's like you're picking up crown jewels there, being very gentle. That's it.
Now,
No.
Okay, all right, that's interesting, right? Okay, I'm going to help you out because that's heavy to hold, right? She's going to find that hard to hold there. So I'm going to find that ASIS, which is about there. I'm going to run my goniometer and I'm going to bring it up. Oh, sorry. Okay. You level out those two. I'm going to bring it up there. Okay. I've got my glasses on. That's 40 degrees. That's really interesting.
I
Okay.
might be wrong.
Okay. I'm hoping not because you can feel your back. All right. That's interesting. We'll soon find out because she's going to be asked to replicate that. So at the moment, there's a possibility that there's half the range of movement on that left side than right side. We would never have known that.
Interesting.
Okay, so let's see if we are right because obviously now the active range is going to give it away. Okay, so if I step back, okay, we're going to ask now for Sandra to do the same thing. Look at the foot because if she is going to compensate, she is very much likely to compensate on this side if we are right. Okay, foot is in roughly the same sort of position. Okay,
I would say now.
okay. So for there, I don't think that first reading was right because now we've kind of got, I would say, what, 70 degrees, if I'm right? Okay, there or thereabouts. So let's see if we can do that again. I think they're off, right? Okay, so take the leg again.
Okay.
All right. Bring your hand out a little bit more. That's it. You create too much space.
Now.
Okay.
I'm pressing now.
All right. So now we're thinking, and again, I'll help you out because it's going to be difficult to hold. I've just popped my fingertip on her ASIS. Okay. I'm going to align the hole with the ASIS. I'm going to bring it up. Okay. Align it with the femur. And then I'll pull it away. I've just increased it slightly. 40 degrees. Okay. All right. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's 40 degrees. All right. Do it again. Okay. Back.
This is active now.
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry. It's alright, it's alright.
Now.
Okay. Can't be right, can it? Okay. So, let's try something else. Okay. Take that. Let's have something that's a little bit more subjective. Objective, should I say.